So utility disconnect is complete, and now we're ready to move on to the second stage of Cost Bucket 2, which is lot prep as a whole. So the first item that we're going to be talking about today is the importance of Trackout Rock. Now this is going to be coupled with our Maricopa County dust permit, and they've really been cracking down on this over the years. When we first started building, we didn't even really know what a Maricopa County dust permit was, but after seeing them canvass the areas and seeing how much work is being done in some of these older communities, it was absolutely imperative that as soon as we started doing full G&Ds, that we actually fall under this requirement. And the first item that they're gonna check when they come out from an inspector perspective is gonna be our Trackout Rock. And the reason that this is so important is that they don't want mud and debris and grit and grime transferring from the actual property out into the street. And so it's absolutely imperative that we have this Trackout Rock, which allows us to be able to pull a car that's been on the lot, here on the rock, spray down all the tires, get all that mud off, so that we're not tracking it down the street day in and day out. This is especially critical during monsoon season when the lots can be especially muddy and just completely saturated with the water that typically comes down just a couple times a year here in Phoenix. There's obviously other ways that builders handle their track out, and especially on commercial residences, you might see what people might refer to like the yellow brick road or more of like a mat situation. But this by far is the most cost-effective way to be able to handle our track out, especially on a small lot where we don't have a lot of people driving in and out, especially once the house is actually established and the footprint of the front yard usually is compressed to a point where we don't have a ton of vehicle traffic moving on and off property. So once we have our Trackout Rock established at the front of the property, we're ready for demo. And this is probably one of the most exciting days as we're able to actually see the old house come down as we start prepping and getting things lined up for us to actually come out of the ground. Now I'm standing where this house was demoed, and you're gonna have to go back and you're gonna have to check a few videos back to be able to see the complete demo and the event that we put on. And of course, if you're in the Phoenix area, you're not gonna wanna miss some of these events that are coming up in the future for other projects. But we go through the overall process of demo, the strategies behind it, and why it's important for us to do that versus maybe trying to remodel or reconfigure the old house. And typically the house comes down in a couple days. That is, if there's not unexpected things. So next we're gonna talk about underground and the unexpected. So I'm sitting here on 12-inch flood irrigation pipes, and these are the types of things that are underground and unexpected within the job site. Now, we have a few unique areas within the valley that are actually living off of the old flood irrigation systems that would allow for agriculture to take place here in the valley. And because of this, we have a lot of obsolete and old pipes that might be residing on the property. Now, what was a first for us on this property is that these irrigation pipes actually ran from the back of the property to the front of the property, but had been abandoned at some point and rerouted. Why this is so intriguing to me is they actually went directly underneath the existing slab, which ultimately created a void that was absolutely necessary for us to remove. So I'm currently want to talk about this concrete pad and this slurry fill that was certified by our geotechnical engineer. And this really brings us to the second thing that we typically find on lot for some of these old homes. And that's gonna be either a septic system and a cesspit that was typical of the 40s, 50s, and 60s, especially in this area when they didn't have city sewer yet running to all of the communities throughout the valley. We were just lucky enough to actually have two systems on here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the difference between a septic and a cesspit in another video. But it's absolutely crucial that when you find these voids, that you're able to fill them, compact them with the appropriate material to ensure the longevity and lifespan of your future new build, as this is truly where the foundation starts as you get into dirt work. So we've talked about this in previous videos, but neighborhood collaboration and getting along with your neighbors is absolutely imperative if you're going to be developing on a long-term basis here or in any market. And one of the reasons for that is our actual property corner pin is right on the side of this large pine tree. Now, not a huge fan of pine trees here in the desert, don't think they belong, but for some reason, they planted a bunch of these. It is important to be able to have a good working relationship with your neighbors so they understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish with your build, and to be able to discuss areas of concern. Now, although this tree does sit currently on what normally would be viewed as our neighbor's lot, it is truly on our lot, and in my opinion, it's a menace and also a safety concern due to the moisture content that's associated with our flood irrigated lots here, as well as the monsoon season where we can have microburst. And every year during monsoon season, we see some of these pine trees come down. Now, the difference between this tree and another tree is that it's dense and it's heavy. And because of that, many times we need to remove these trees so that they don't become problematic for us or the future homeowner that will reside in the residence that we're building. And even though that we own this tree, which is the lesser of the two concerns, I want to show you the second tree that actually has me more concerned on this lot. So it's actually this tree that actually resides on our neighbor's property that is the bigger of the two concerns. And as you can see, this wall actually came undone when we were building our dirt pad, which we'll get to in our next video. But in digging down, the one thing that's great about trees is they provide shade, but the thing that doesn't always abide property lines is going to be the root system thereof. In addition to that, we already see that its growth pattern has it tilted slightly towards our property, which has me mildly concerned and is absolutely important for us to be able to work with the neighbor to determine the best situation to be able to take this tree down. Stay tuned. Given that the house next door is a rental, we haven't had a chance to be able to actually speak with the actual homeowner, and we look forward to doing that, and we'll keep you posted in future videos. So now we covered the demo, the underground unknown, compliance with the overall county that we reside in, as well as being able to mingle with our neighbors to be able to come up with solutions. Let's get to the fun part, which we're going to talk about next. So follow us over to our next video. And as always, have a great day.